Joining us now, Corey Lewandowski. Corey, the New York Times best-selling author, 2 New York Times books, Let Trump Be Trump and Trump's Enemies. He's also senior advisor to Trump Pence 2020, and he's with us now. Hey, Corey, welcome to the show. Hope you had a great weekend.
Good morning, John. It's great to be with you today. And, I had the privilege to be home this weekend, which was a real treat. I got home on Saturday, saw the kids. Two of my boys had football tryouts, so maybe this country's getting back to normal.
That's good. Corey, we got 50 days to this election. Lots to talk about. Fox News poll out. There's a Rasmussen poll out now showing the race virtually tied. We've moved ahead in a lot of these battleground states. But, Corey, the concern seems to be this voter integrity project. We had just Steve Bannon on talking about how the Democrats are plotting to try and steal this thing through these mail-in ballots. What's the campaign strategy here for this?
Well, look, we have a massive EDO operation, Election Day operation. We've got over 300 attorneys ready to go in the most targeted areas. We are concerned, John, not about states like Florida that have a permanent absentee voter file where you apply, you can track your application from the minute you get it all the way back. It's signature verified. We know that only one person is going to vote one time. We have no concerns with that at all. We do have concerns as a campaign of these states that are simply mailing out ballots to every person who's ever lived or resided at a particular domicile, whether they've been there for a week or they haven't lived there in 10 years. They're sending ballots everywhere. It is ripe for fraud. We know the voter files historically are not accurate. Consumer data is not accurate. So we're concerned about that. We're taking steps. But my prediction is probably going to be, when you think back just 4 years ago, Donald Trump won in a landslide, according to the Electoral College. They didn't call the race until about 3 o'clock in the morning, even though it was long over by then. I predict that because of the way the absentee ballots are going out, this permanent file going out, the number of votes that will still be in question, we may not know the election results for 2 or 3 days following the outcome of the election.
Now, are there any battleground states that are mail-out ballots?
Well, no, John, there's a bunch of these. And the issue is, even in states that have historically voted Republican that are doing this. So the state of Ohio, which is sending ballots out to people, a state that we're going to win by 8 points, which is what we want to buy in 16. I think we'll have a bigger margin of victory in 2020, right? We're fighting everywhere because we want to make sure that the federal courts understand and that the people understand. You can't simply mail ballots to everyone based on their domicile. You can't mail them that way. It's not fair. It is ripe for fraud, and we have to do a better job. If you want to apply for an absentee ballot because you're out of state, you've got a religious holiday, you've got some other reason you can't be there, no problem. We are 100% in favor of that. We are not in favor of the mailing of ballots to every person who's ever resided at a particular domicile.
Well, the other thing is, these ballots are supposed to be verified with a signature, right? You're talking about 60 to 80 million mail-in ballots potentially is what Bannon said 15 minutes ago. How do you possibly verify 80 million ballots? That's impossible.
It can't be done. We've seen this experiment in the primaries, both in New York, where Carolyn Maloney's seat, a member of Congress, who was involved in a competitive congressional primary, took 7 weeks to count the ballot in one congressional race. And we saw it, which is a little different, in the Democratic primary for president in the state of Iowa, where it took them over a week to count a total of 100,000 ballots. Look, it's not that many. 100,000 ballots shouldn't take a week to count. Carolyn Maloney's congressional district only has 800,000 people in the whole thing. They didn't all vote. What happens when you're dealing with 50, 70, 100 million ballots, and it's taken weeks and or months to come up with who the winner is? You're doing a disservice to the American people. We need to do better. And, John, by the way, look, this is all under the guise of COVID, as you know. But now we see that Anthony Fauci, who the media adores half the time, says there's no reason you can't vote in person. And they say, Fauci doesn't know what he's talking about anymore, right? This is what happens. It's always what's convenient for the media, never what the real truth is anymore.
Well, Corey, look, you have these protests and riots, there's no mask, people standing shoulder to shoulder. You just had a big rally in Washington, D.C., tens of thousands of people there, no masks, no social distancing. I mean, you can go to Walmart, you can go to a casino, but all of a sudden you can't vote, right? I mean, the whole thing makes no sense. But I think the concern is, does the Trump campaign have a process in place that is going to be able to challenge these fraudulent ballots? Because we all know if you don't, they're going to try to steal it, even if we have a big lead on November the 3rd.
Look, I think the American people are going to be watching this very, very closely. I have very little faith in places like Michigan, which is a battleground state run by a Democrat socialist governor who's closed her state because she doesn't want to spread the coronavirus, except, her husband calls people and says, hey, put my boat in the water because I'm the governor's husband, right? I mean, this is the hypocrisy of the left, John. So, look, we won the state of Michigan by 10,704 votes 4 years ago. We're going to be back there. We're campaigning every day, reminding the people of the promises the president made and the promises he's delivered on. And we're going to win the state of Michigan, but I had zero faith in the governor and the secretary of state there to actually have a fair and honest election, which is a difficult thing to say. But if you look at the way that they've politicized this whole thing, it's gravely concerning, and we need to go back to what is so simple, John. It's called ID. It's called an identification. If you want to go vote, you want to get on a local bus, you want to take a metro half the places in this country, you want to buy a ticket to get on a Greyhound, right? You got to produce an ID. You want to get on the train, you got to produce an ID. You want to go do the most important thing, arguably, that our country has to offer, which is vote. Hey, don't worry about it. We don't have to signature verify you. We don't have to check your ID. Don't worry about it. And now people say there isn't widespread voter fraud. Well, isn't one fraud one too many that could have been prevented if we're checking IDs?
I think so. You can't, like you said, Corey Lewandowski, you can't do anything without an ID. So the fact that you're able to vote without signature verification, with ballots that are just mailed out, who knows where they end up. We've heard reports where they're stacked up in apartment complexes, and then they can get harvested, don't even have to mail them back in. Now, the other issue we have is if they're prepaid, there's no postmark. So at what day do you stop taking them? 5 days after, 2 days after, midnight? I mean, at what day do you say these ballots are not legal or they're too late, right? No one has any idea.
It's very simple, right? If you get a postmark on it that says that this was the date of the election, you're postmarked, then good to go. Then why would we have a different criteria than, hey, how about this? When you pay your tax bill, John, if you're going to pay quarterly tax payments or you're going to pay a tax bill on April 15th, guess what the IRS does? It looks at the date that the mail was postmarked, okay? That doesn't mean it has to be in the door, but it means you have to have met the deadline, or else they fine you, they penalize you for being late on your taxes. Why is it that we're going to allow voting to be different? Just have it so simple. If it is postmarked on Election Day, it counts. If it's not postmarked, it doesn't count. It's simple. That's how the rules work. We can't change the rules halfway through the game.
Let's go to a couple individual states. How do you feel right now about New Hampshire?
I love our work in New Hampshire. I'll tell you what, we got a big team on the ground. I've been up here all weekend, John. I'm here today. I'm leaving to go to Minnesota this afternoon, but I like our work in New Hampshire. Joe Biden has done nothing in this state. Don't tell anybody. But, hey, he finished fifth in the primary, left the state before they even finished counting the votes on primary day of 2020 for the Democratic nomination. He has no operation in New Hampshire, which makes me happy. And the truth is, the people of New Hampshire have benefited from the Trump policies, and it's a state we lost by under 2,800 votes 4 years ago. It's a state that's a pickup for Donald Trump.
Minnesota.
Hey, John, I'm going to sound like a broken record. Pickup for Donald Trump. No Republican has won it since the Nixon re-election in 1972. We lost it by 1.5 points, just under 45,000 votes 4 years ago. I'm on the Minnesota bus tour tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. We're putting a lot of resources into that state. Joe Biden knows he's in trouble. 6 Democratic mayors in Minnesota have endorsed Donald Trump. Put that in the win column, 10 more electoral votes.
Arizona.
Man, John, I tell you, I sound like a broken record. We've got some work to do in Arizona. There's no question about it. But that being said, we're on the offense in Arizona right now, and we're on the offense. If your next state's Nevada, John, we're on the offense there as well. And so, look, our campaign statistically speaking, is in a better position today than we were 4 years ago when we shocked the entire world. We have built something very special. We're on the offense in places we need to be. We're right where we need to be in a number of our battleground states, including Wisconsin, including Pennsylvania. Look, the election is still 7 weeks away. That's a lifetime in politics, but I like the position we're in as opposed to Joe Biden.
Are we going to have debates?
We will. The answer is yes. 2 weeks from tomorrow, just happens to be the same day as my book coming out. But we're going to have a debate up in Ohio on the 29th. If Joe Biden shows up, he's probably the first challenger ever in modern history to say no to additional debates because he doesn't have the mental acuity to do these. That being said, he's a 47-year career politician. He is going to be prepared for the debate, and the media has historically now for the last, John, 2 months, given him a pass on any tough questions. So let's see if that continues. But I believe Joe Biden's going to be prepared. He's a professional politician.
So you actually are with me. You actually think he's going to do better in the debates than a lot of people saying is. And, of course, the bar is so low. Basically, if he just shows up and knows where he is, the media will declare him a winner, right, basically.
He's been running for president for over 30 years. We are naive to think he's not going to show up in debate. We are naive to think he's not going to be prepared. This guy is a career politician. He has wanted this job his whole life. He's run for it many times, caught plagiarizing and, all other things why he's had to get out of this race. But he's going to be on the debate stage. He's going to be smart enough to be lucid for 90 minutes. He's going to repeat the same lines, which is, he's going to read the teleprompter and say, top line answer is, which he's done many times. And the guy's literally reading the top line answers on the teleprompter. Whoops. But, hey, he's going to be able to pass this debate, and the media is going to say, wow, amazing debate performance. He really took it to Donald Trump tonight. That's what the answer is going to be. We know that. We're prepared for it.
All right, final question, State, and then we'll get to your Trump America First book out in 2 weeks, Nevada. The president there this past weekend had an open-air rally, had an indoor rally, got a lot of criticism for that. Does he have a realistic chance to be competitive in Nevada?
John, we are absolutely on the offense in Nevada. We have seen the American people, and the people more specifically of Nevada have seen how the failed policies of the governor there have destroyed the economy. I mean,
Right.
the Las Vegas Strip is basically a shell of itself. Nobody's making any more money. All these people who work in the hotels and the culinary unions, they're out of jobs because the governor has shut down all of these places. And I don't understand the criticism. Donald Trump wants to go and have an outside conversation with people, chastise him because those people aren't wearing masks. But you know what? There's no chastising for these protests that continue to go on in Portland. Hundreds of days. We're over 100 days now. These protests continue to go on. No mask wearing, complete destruction, anarchy, chaos, bedlam. Hey, the media hasn't even reported on it, John, in like 3 weeks. It's amazing. Right. They're so concerned about people who want to come and see the president, which we call a peaceful protest. They don't even want to talk about what's going on in the northwest part of this country.
John Fredericks Radio Network, we're out of time. I want to thank Corey Lewandowski for being with us. His new book out in 2 weeks, Trump America First, The President Succeeds Against All Odds. You can get it, just go to his website, or you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on our site, the Virginia Star. It's right there. You can pre-order it right now. I've done several of them. Trump America First by Corey Lewandowski, Dave Bossie, set to be his third New York Times bestseller. Comes out in 2 weeks. Thanks for being with us, Corey. Thank you.
My pleasure, John. Thank you.
All right, man.